we're now going to cover more looping control with continue and break. So continue and break are keywords in Python. They can only be used inside the body of a loop. So they are not objects, and you cannot assign them to variables. They don't have any methods or attributes. You will only see them inside the body of a loop. They provide more control flow. So continue, what it does is it forces the execution to return to the top of the loop for the next iteration. So wherever you see the word continue, what will happen is that none of the rest of the code will run in the body of the loop. It'll just go back up to the top for the next iteration. Break, if this happens in your loop, if you have the keyword break, it will exit the loop. Doesn't matter what iteration it is. Doesn't matter if the condition for the while loop is true or false. It will just exit at that point and just move on to whatever the next lines are outside of the body of the loop. Okay, so let's see this in action. And let's say we are iterating through all the first 100 integers. And what we're going to do here is we're going to skip the numbers that are divisible by 2, 3, or 5. So first of all, let's just print out the numbers in this range, so 0 to 99. And this is just going to be a simple example to showcase the continue keyword. So we'll say if the current number is divisible by 2, or it is divisible by 3, or it's divisible by 5, then we will continue. So it will just skip back up to the top of the loop without continuing on and executing this print statement. So just a quick check over here. We do have an if statement inside the body of the loop. That's perfectly fine. And notice that the code block is indented even further over here. This is just a one-line block of code for this particular if statement. So it checks if 2 is divisible, or if the current number is divisible by 2. That means there's no remainder. Remember, modulus is the remainder operator. If there's no remainder when dividing by 3, or if there's no remainder when dividing by 5, then it will go in here. Let's go ahead and execute this. You'll see there's far less numbers. So these are the numbers that are not divisible by 2, 3, or 5. So they test this condition, they turn out false, and then they do get printed out to the screen. Okay, so that is continue. Now I could have rewritten this if statement such that they were only the ones that were that were not divisible by this were printed out. So I didn't actually need to continue here, but this is just to showcase what it does in a very simple example. Okay, so let's move on to our next example. And now we're going to use the break keyword. And I'm actually just going to copy and paste this over here. And so what I'm going to do over here is I'm going to break completely out of the loop whenever the first number is divisible by 2, 3, and 5. So they have to be divisible by all of them. I'm going to do this. I'm going to say if it's divisible, so if it is divisible by 2 and it's divisible by 3 and it's divisible by 5, then it will break. So it won't complete this loop, all of these iterations. It will just break outside, and it will be printing out I. Actually, so 0 is divisible by all of these. So I just ran this, and I got nothing over here. So let's go ahead and do 1 to 100. So I don't start at 0. And now it will go 1 all the way until 29. So 30 is the first number. And what I can do is finally, so this will be kind of cool, is the first integer divisible by 2, 3, and 5 is I. So let's just run this, and now I can see the first integer divisible by 2, 3, and 5 is 30. So let me just explain what's going on real quick. So inside of this loop, this body of code is being run. If this gets triggered, which is first triggered by the integer 30, then it will break out of here and it will go down to this line of code, which is outside the body of the loop. Now, the variable I still holds on to its value. Okay, so it was 30 over here. It did go in here, and then it triggered this, and then it broke outside of that. So you can use the value of I outside of the loop like we just did. We could have put this inside the body of the loop like this over here. We could say this will get only triggered one time because then it will break. So let's go ahead and run this again. It'll look the exact same because I is still getting printed to the screen if it does not meet this, regardless of whether it meets the condition or not. So all the numbers are getting printed, and once we reach one that is divisible by 2, 3, and 5, then this will get printed. This will only run once because we see that there's a break here. It'll break out of this loop, and we'll just end the code. And now we can have one more print statement over here and print something, and just say we broke out of the loop, or actually we just say we are outside of the loop. So just to show that this runs exactly once as well, just in a different location. Okay, so summarizing again, continue gets you back to the current, or gets you back to the next iteration regardless of where you're at in the loop. Break just exits the loop completely and brings you over to this point.